All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today and for making time for this very important cause. Now, of course, before everything else, I do hope that everyone here and their families are safe, healthy, and doing well, both physically and mentally, given the continued rise of COVID-19 cases globally. I would also like to inform everyone that this will be a recorded event, so for our documentation purposes. And so to all of our distinguished partners, our friends from the media, bloggers, and everyone else tuning in, my name is Mark Nelson, and I am WWF-Philippines National Ambassador. And I will be your host for this media launch on the Solid Waste Management Baseline Study in Philippine Ports. It's called Clean Ports, Clean Oceans, Improving Port Waste Management in the Philippines. And it is WWF's initiative in partnership with the Grieg Foundation to reduce the flow of plastic waste leaking into our oceans. Now, I personally have had a lot of firsthand experience of just the sort of devastation that plastic waste can cause on our oceans. I'm a free diver, I'm a scuba diver, and not just here in the Philippines, but around the world, I have seen the increase in plastic waste over the last 3 or 4 decades of my time in the water, and it is really quite debilitating. Its effect both on the coral reefs and, of course, all of the animals, whether it be fish, turtles, whales, dolphins, sea lions, a whole lot. It's a shocking thing to see. And for those of you that don't spend a lot of time in or around the water, I can tell you it's very troubling indeed. So I cannot stress enough just how important this particular initiative is. So I personally am looking forward to learning more about this particular study. And so to begin, may I please call on the Executive Director of WWF Philippines, Ms. Catherine Custodio, to give the opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Mark, and good afternoon to all. Thank you for joining us this afternoon to launch a baseline study on port waste management in the Philippines. And thanks most especially to our partners who we are proud to be working with. Let me just go down the list. With the DENR, Ms. Juvie Serafin of the Environment Management Bureau, of the Marina Engineer Leslie Bangayan, the Philippine Coast Guard represented here by Lieutenant Commander Grace Campos of the Marine Science Investigation Force, the Philippine Ports Authority with Ms. Annie Lee Manese, the Department of Transportation, the Norwegian Embassy represented by His Excellency Bjorn Johnson, from the Grieg Group and Grieg Foundation, Gry Larsen, our colleagues from WWF Norway, and our friends in media, thank you very much. The study we're launching today is important for several reasons. It shows the opportunity and role of ports in making no plastics in nature a reality. Looking back to our history, we know that ports have been central in our development as a country. Cities emerge from ports. Their hub and connector role is key to economic and cultural progress. But let us also look at why ports are where they are. It is because of natural features of land and sea that humans have found conducive to our activity, offering some protection to boats and a good entryway onto the land. The role of ports in development is not a distant past occurrence, but continues to today. And this work we have in partnership with ports shows the accountability, the vision, and connection that they have with nature that is fundamental. What we have is a baseline study, and therefore a starting point for concerted action to stop plastic pollution into our oceans. My hope is that it is a nowhere to go but up type of situation. The study offers specific recommendations based on data, and it is for a variety of stakeholders. So to ground our work in scientific data is already a strong beginning. And I would like again to thank you for putting your trust in our group and our collaboration to produce this report. Overall, there are 3 big important things that we need to do together and at scale to truly address the problem of plastic pollution. First is to close the tap by reducing the amount of plastics we produce and reuse. Second is to close the loop by improving recycling, reuse, redesign, and doing some very exciting, innovative work looking at alternatives. third is to stop plastic waste from leaking into the ocean. I'm sure all of us here have something to contribute in all of those areas. Plastics do not belong in nature, and they do not belong in the ocean. Let us not forget that we're in a world that is a living, breathing organism. And let our shared experience of the pandemic remind us that we are part of the ecosystem. We are organisms whose well-being and survival depend on a healthy planet. Let me close by expressing again how very grateful I am to be working with all of you on this initiative on port waste management. The success here should have and ideally will have a multiplier effect on all our ports and coastal communities, which for a country like ours, an archipelago and a maritime country, is crucial. This is really about changing what will be a dismal ending if we are to change the course. So again, I would like to thank you all for being part of the solution. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Ms. Trin, for giving us that overview on what is in store for us in today's discussion. Once again, that was Ms. Catherine Custodio, the Executive Director of WWF-Philippines. Now, WWF is very honored to have Grieg Foundation with us today for this project on addressing the port waste challenge in the Philippines. Of course, this is not the first time that WWF and Grieg have collaborated. They have partnered with the motorized yacht Navorca that provides transportation services for WWF conservation initiatives in the Sulu Sea, most particularly in the Tubataha Reefs Natural Park and nearby island of, well, nearby island municipality of Cagayan. The vessel was acquired in 2008 and through a partnership with the Grieg Shipping Group, Grieg Foundation, and WWF Norway, was refitted with state-of-the-art navigation and communications equipment. I personally have been on the Navorca quite a few times, taking trips out to check on our work in Tubataha, and it is a beautiful boat, very, very seaworthy, and we really, really appreciate all the wonderful upgrades that Grieg Foundation have given to the boat. It does essential work in research and making sure that that national park is being held to the highest of international standards, which it has been recognized as doing so. And so now, to give us a little bit more information about the project and its implementation, we have prepared a short video for you, so please watch this.
Mahalaga sa amin na ayusin ang pagsisinop ng basura dahil maaari itong makaapekto sa mga karagatan, sa mga pangisdaan at makaapekto sa mga kabuhayan ng mga tao, mawawalan hanap buhay ang mga tao.
The Worldwide Fund for Nature and Grieg Foundation are currently working together in 3 Philippine ports to achieve 50% plastic waste leakage reduction. We are working with the Philippine Ports Authority, Philippine Coast Guard, Maritime Industry Authority, shipping companies, Department of Environment and Natural Resources (EMD), and other relevant port stakeholders to come up with solutions to fight plastic pollution and save our ocean.
All right, that was indeed very insightful. And now, to give their message, I'm very pleased to welcome Ms. Gry Larson, Leader of Sustainability and Public Affairs of the Grieg Group and board member of the Grieg Foundation.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, On behalf of the Grieg Foundation and the Grieg Group, we are delighted to participate on this media launch on a topic that is very close to our hearts and a huge priority in our work for sustainability, both locally, nationally, and internationally. And no doubt you saw the video. Plastic waste is one of the world's biggest environmental challenges that we need to tackle. And it has major negative effects on marine diversity, on species, but also influences the climate by its impact on marine ecosystems. Gladly, we are today seeing increased commitments and ambitions to reduce plastic pollution. That is good. But as we all know, commitments and ambitions are not of value if they are not followed up with concrete actions. And that is why we have partnered with WWF. In 2020, we launched together the program Clean Ports, Clean Oceans, Improving Waste Management in the Philippines. Our aim is to improve the management of plastic waste in 3 ports in the Philippines and reduce plastic waste leakage with 50%. For us, it was natural to partner with WWF. And there are 2 reasons for that. Firstly, we had worked together before, and you already heard about that project, a project that was very successful and where we brought our minds and hearts together. But secondly, for us in the Grieg Group, partnering with others in business, civil society, international NGOs, local NGOs, governments, is key. We strongly believe that partnership is crucial for sustainability. Partnerships where we bring our different backgrounds together, our different competence together, and where we try to find solutions. And that is what this partnership is all about, finding solutions. And we will not find solutions without science and data. One of the challenges related to plastic pollution is the lack of data regarding plastic waste generation and management. Therefore, we believe that the baseline studies developed at the national level, but also for the 3 ports covered by the project, are a crucial step. And that is also why we are delighted to be part of this launch. Together, we need to act. And the Grieg Group and the Grieg Foundation, we are proud to be part of this. Together, we are acting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Larson and Little Larson, for that wonderful message and being at one with WWF for this exciting project. We are, of course, very, very honored to also have the Norwegian Embassy in the Philippines at our virtual event. And so in that case, we are very pleased to welcome the Norwegian ambassador to the Philippines, His Excellency Bjørn Sturset Jansen, to share a short message about this particular initiative. Good afternoon, Mr. Jansen.
Good afternoon, and excellent pronunciation on my name. I salute you. So Grieg and I are former colleagues. We met in Oslo a few months back, maybe it's a year ago, and we did hope that this launch could take place physically in the Philippines. Unfortunately, we are meeting virtually still, but still very happy to participate. Choosing the background for my Zoom meeting today, I chose a picture I took from a Filipino military plane on my way to Sulu. So this is a picture from the Sulu seas, just showing the strong bonds linking Norway and the Philippines on maritime issues. One of my first events here as ambassador was actually to go around the Manila Bay in a vessel called a Balangay, which is a vessel of Filipino origins back in the sort of 3rd century AC, and I was curious to find out that it actually the building technique of this vessel was not so different as that used by the Vikings in Norway a few hundred years later. So there might be some linkages there that we are unaware of. Now, at the start, I want to thank all the partners. I mean, the government authorities that are part of this project are government authorities that are very close to our heart. The DRE, the Philippine Ports Authority, the Coast Guard, of course, the Maritime Industry Authority, which is very close to the Norwegian Embassy, and the Department of Transportation. And so to the World Wildlife Fund and to Grieg, their friends, congratulations. Every day, and now I would like my presentation to start, if you could get the first picture. Every day, hundreds of thousands of Norwegians go to work in the ocean industries. And for generations, we Norwegians have lived off the ocean. The rich fishing stocks along the Norwegian coast, the shipping companies transporting goods to the United Kingdom, Europe, and to the rest of the world. So I couldn't let this occasion go without showing this picture of the vessel Statsråd Lemkul. It's a training ship which will arrive in the Philippines in October later this year. So stay tuned. I think all of you will be invited to see the vessel when it arrives in Manila in the middle of October later this year. Now, the tools and equipments improved continuously as we worked on our seafaring equipment, and as did our knowledge of the sea. And this is the foundation that has made Norway a leading ocean nation. Next slide. As mentioned by the others, the ocean and the coastal environments today are at risk. The negative effects of plastic pollution on our oceans are not only felt by marine wildlife, biodiversity and ecosystems, but also by people and communities who depend on the ocean's resources for their livelihoods and well-being. Marine plastic litter can also cause direct or indirect damage to properties at sea, such as ships and vessels. The shipping industry is impacted by higher costs associated with foul propellers, damaged engines, and having to remove and manage waste in harbors. It is widely known that the most of the marine plastic litter comes from land-based sources, such as inadequate waste management on land. So, improving waste management systems at ports are therefore an integral part of the solution to tackling marine plastic litter. As you know, shipping is important to both Norway and the Philippines. Norway is the world's 4th largest shipping nation measured by value, and we employ approximately 25,000 Filipino seafarers on board our international fleet. Shipping is a key user of the oceans, delivering essential goods and commodities, taking ferry passengers to their destinations and carrying millions of tourists on cruises. So this project seeks to develop a new and innovative waste management system for ports and thus reduce plastic waste. I'm very pleased to see that the Grieg Foundation, together with the World Wildlife Fund, which is a key player in combating marine litter and microplastics in the Philippines and worldwide, that they have partnered in this project to manage an urgent environmental problem. So I'm excited to hear about how the project has progressed so far and look forward to the continuation. Thank you, and salamat po.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Janssen. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm virtual round of applause to our partners from Grieg Group, Grieg Foundation, and the Norwegian Embassy in the Philippines. And now I believe it is time to present the findings of our baseline study in Philippine ports. So may I please call on the project manager for WWF-Philippines, once again, Ms. Zarina Constantino Pinopio.
Hello, thank you, Mark, for that, and thank you for the wonderful messages that we are receiving right now, and also the participants or the participants that we have in this media launch. So we can see a lot of the local stakeholders here. So thank you for joining us, and also employees from the Grieg Group and also Grieg Foundation. So thank you for being with us. So I'll be presenting to you the solid waste management baseline study results. So this is part of the Clean Ports, Clean Oceans, Improving Port Waste Management in the Philippines. And this project, has been mentioned for quite a while now, is a partnership between Worldwide Fund for Nature, Grieg Group, and Grieg Foundation. And this is a 3-year project to stop plastic pollution in ports. And for this project, we aim to reduce at least 50% of plastic waste leakage in Manila North Port, in Port of Batangas, and Port of Cagayan de Oro. So these 3 ports were selected among all the other ports that we have shortlisted because we see a lot of potential impact and also the interests of the different port stakeholders in these 3 ports. And we look forward to identifying and implementing solutions based from the baseline results, because we have also conducted specific baseline studies in these 3 ports, implement it with the different local stakeholders so that we get to reach that goal of 50% reduction of plastic waste leakage. And the goal of the project, we have also created, or we have also a push for a national baseline study. So our partner for the baseline studies, we also have them here in this media launch. We have AMH Philippines. We work with them to really identify or create that overview of the port waste management system. And these project or the inputs that are coming out from this national baseline study, we hope that this will help in terms of the implementation plan for the already adopted National Plan of Action on Marine Litter that has been pushed or that has been led by the DNREMB, which is also represented today. And our goal is from these baseline results, we get to identify and test out solutions and showcase these solutions together with the different local stakeholders and with our partners so that we get to scale and to highlight these solutions and be adopted by other Philippine ports and other ports maybe outside the Philippines. So for this baseline study, we covered 3 types of waste. So we covered the vessel-generated waste, or those wastes that are generated from the ships. And also we have the port-generated waste, or these are the wastes that are generated from the port offices, from the passenger terminal, from also the different admin buildings inside the port, and also community-generated waste. So these are the waste generated from communities within and adjacent to the port. So just to give you quick statistics of how big the port industry is in the Philippines. So there are 552 ports in the Philippines, and you'll see that majority of them, we have 271 private ports. And all of these ports are being managed by 25 port management offices. We also have, in terms of the ships, so we have a lot of vessels coming in, and most of them are domestic. You'll see that at least 97 in 2019 and at least 96 in 2020. This is the percentage of domestic vessels that are arriving or are operating in the Philippine waters. We also have, in terms of the ship calls, in terms, of course, the passengers. So we have a lot of passengers in 2019, about 40 million passengers, which kind of reduced definitely in 2020 with the pandemic, but still it's a remarkable number with 12 million passengers. And of course, in terms of cruise ship passengers, we have at least 120,000 in 2019, so that's pre-pandemic, which reduced or decreased in 2020 to 21,000. So in terms of the policies for solid waste management for the ports, it's already there. So we have a lot of policies in place. We have the International Maritime Organization, we have the MARPOL, and also at the regional level, we have the COBC, the ASEAN Regional Action Plan for Combating Marine Debris in ASEAN member states. At the national level, we have the RA 9003. We have a lot of national action plans, including, of course, the National Plan of Action on Marine Litter, or the National Plan of Action for the Prevention, Reduction, and Management of Marine Litter. From our stakeholders or from the port authorities, they have also issued a lot of memoranda. And these are actually some of them. And from the PPA side, we highlighted here the issuance in terms of the guidelines to implement the SWM system in the PPA and directing its strict monitoring and compliance. Also the adoption or the strict implementation of the MARPOL. And we also have, just recently, we have an issuance from PPA on the ban on the use of unnecessary single-use plastic products. From the PCG, some of the things that we've included here, we have the issuance on the prevention of pollution of garbage, by garbage, and marine pollution inspection and apprehension report. And if you look at the right side, so you'll see this diagram of all the different stakeholders needed to be engaged for us to really address the plastic pollution issue in the country. If I can just zoom this in, so you'll see that, oh, I moved next. Okay. Okay, so if I can just zoom it in, so you'll see that in terms of the regulatory framework, we have the national government, we have the PPA, the DNR, of course, the PCG, the IMO, and also the local government unit and Marina. So you'll see here that once the you'll see here the importance of really integrating the local government unit, because when the waste are already collected from the ships or from the port, when it goes out of the port, it now enters the city waste management system. So it is important to align all the policies and maybe also its implementation with the cities that they are in, because it is important for us to have that alignment so that we get to have to improve our waste collection and management system. And this diagram really emphasizes the need to coordinate with local government units. You will see here the sanitary landfill, the need for also the junk shops, and also the different barangays or the communities that are adjacent to the port. So you'll see that there's a lot of ports, there are a lot of port stakeholders that need to be engaged for this project. And we are happy that we're already engaging them for this study, so that we have this baseline or foundation of what is already out there, and build on that to determine how can we address the current situation. So based on that diagram, you'll see, and I mentioned that there is really a need to align with the local government unit. And this actually relates to some of the things that we have observed in the national baseline study. So, in the Philippines, it's not really mandated for all the LGUs or the local government units to have this plastic use ban or regulation ordinance. So you'll see that not all of the local government units from which some of the ports are located will have this ban or regulation of unnecessary single-use plastics. And this is kind of will be challenging in terms of implementation, because since we already have this issuance that there will be a ban on the use of unnecessary single-use plastic products in ports, what will happen if the passengers will go out to that specific port, or will go out of the ports, and then that city does not ban any kind of plastic? So there needs to be like an alignment. So it will be very challenging to implement like a ban in a port, what if the city that they are in does not have one. And if I can just zoom into the map on the left side, so you'll see that all the circles, regardless of its color, those are all ports. And you'll see that not all of them
will are located in cities and municipalities with a plastic use ordinance. Next, so we talk about sanitary landfills, which is very important because it caters to the waste that are generated from the cities and or municipalities, and also from the ports and also from the vessels. But if in our study in 2020, the WWF's EPR study, we actually indicated there that there are only 191 sanitary landfills in the country. That's actually 11% of the required number for the Philippines. And of course, in the map that you'll see on the left side, so not all of of course, the sanitary landfill should not be located near the ports because that will be problematic since it's not also allowed because it will be near the Philippine waters. But you'll see that there's really a need to cover or to have a lot of to build or to have sanitary landfills to accommodate all the waste that will be generated, not just from the cities, but also in the port and also vessels that are coming in. Okay, so in the national baseline study, we also have gone through the different reports that were submitted to the Philippine Ports Authority. And from these reports, we saw that the waste are categorized according to recyclables, residuals, and biodegradables. And you'll see that this is the data in 2019, that most of the waste that are generated in ports, so these are those generated from port offices, from admin buildings and passenger terminals, majority of this, at least 61%, are recyclable. So definitely there is an opportunity for recovery and recycling. So we do not add pressure to the sanitary landfill, which is already a bit about 11% of the total required. So if we look closely on the map on the left, so you'll see that this does not mean that these ways are going straight to the nature, but this actually shows the amount or the volume of port generated waste in the different ports that we have. So you'll see that in terms of the volume of generated or port generated waste, you'll see that it's quite big in this is the port of NCR South, and located in Manila. And then also this is quite near the port of Marinduque and Quezon. So you'll see that there's really this big concentration of waste that are generated in these areas. Okay, and in terms of comparing this to the COVID situation that we have right now, so it's relatively the same. So there, a majority of the waste that are being generated are recyclables, at least 55%. So now from the port generated waste, let's go to the vessel generated waste. So for the vessel generated waste, it's actually the same situation. At least or 67% of the total waste that are generated are recyclables. And out of these recyclables, 23% are plastics. So in terms of the map in the left, you'll also see that the concentration or the volume, I think it will depend on the size of the weight, the size of the port, in terms of the vessel generated waste and also the port generated waste. So for the port generated waste, we saw that most of the volume would be high in NCR South and also the port of Marinduque and Quezon. But we see that this is also the case for the vessel generated waste. So this is just in terms of the generation. We'll move on what happens to this to these waste once they are generated and they reach the port. So this is also the case for 2021 for vessel generated waste. So for the recyclables, it's 31%, but you'll see that there's a big or almost half of the waste generated from the vessels are residuals. So what happens once it is generated? So you'll see here the estimation in terms of the waste generated from the ports. So for the vessel generated waste, it's about 128,000 kilograms per year. And also for the port generated waste, it's 14,000 kilograms per year. So once it's generated, you'll see that it's already almost all of them are collected by the contracted service provider. So that's good because there's no leakage from the generation part. So now what happens once it's collected? So we see that there are some potential plastic waste leakage from the collection to the disposal site. So plastic waste leakage from the collection services and potential leakage from the materials recovery facility. This is the facility wherein waste are collected, sorted, and hopefully the recyclables are brought into like an ambulant buyer or like a junk shop. There are also a potential plastic waste leakage during transportation and then at the disposal site. So this is generally the case for all the ports in the Philippines. And then you'll see that in terms of the recyclables that are brought to the junk shop, in terms of this amount, when we compare it to the total of the vessel and port generated waste, the recyclables that are being recovered from the waste that been collected, it's just 4% of the total vessel and port generated waste. We don't want to condone any port authority with this data, but we see this as an opportunity to work with the local stakeholders on how we can improve the current collection and management system. So with that, we have some observations in the baseline study. So one, we see that there's easy access for the PPA policy. So that's really helpful in terms of like updating the different ports and all the other concerned stakeholders about policies, especially those related to solid waste management. We have RA 9003, but definitely there's a need for us to improve our implementation and to have more stakeholders really work together in terms of implementing this law. We also see that at source segregation is often neglected. So once the wastes are collected, it's most of the time it's usually mixed waste, and we see that it would be great to have opportunities for us to have or to practice that segregation at source, or to have a facility that will help further sort the waste that are generated both from the vessels and also from the ports. So there are ongoing TPA interventions already. We already know that there's an ongoing drafting of the Philippine Ports Environmental Code. There's also an inclusion of the integrated management system in the performance scorecard of the ports. And IEC campaigns have been implemented in the different ports and of course in on-port vessels. So what we recommend is that stricter implementation of the different provisions of the policies. We hope that we can support in terms of what are the gaps in terms of its implementation, so that we get to really implement it more or stricter in the coming years. We also recommend the use of proper and updated tools and equipment. And of course, the maintenance of these vehicles that are being used for the collection and in the management system. What else? So it would be great to include segregation and material recovery. So you see that we have recyclables for port generated waste, it's 61%. For vessel generated waste, it's 67%. And but the volume or the percentage of recyclables being recovered from the junk shop is just 4%. So there's actually opportunity for us to really work on highlighting segregation, and then segregation, because this is very important in facilitating material recovery for the recyclables. And definitely this is already included in the Philippine Ports Environmental Code, and we just hope that we can revisit the solid waste management matrix to include provisions for segregation and recovery. Other observations, we see that we have at least 96% of domestic vessels, but we observe that they tend to disregard marine protection, and we hope that we can really work on capacitating the seafarers, the shipping companies, and all the other concerned stakeholders for them to really increase that level of compliance in terms of marine protection. So maybe this is included in the Philippine Ports Environmental Code. And of course, there are also IEC campaigns that are ongoing. And this is in coordination with the Maritime Industry Authority, or MARINA. So for the recommendations, definitely stricter implementation, proper and full documentation of waste being unloaded. So that documentation is very important for us to really create the data that will help guide our policies in the future. Of course, we have the conduct of IEC campaigns and the inclusions of that solid waste management performance in the key performance indicators. In terms of data management and monitoring, you see that out of the 552 ports, at least 50% of those are private ports, so about 271 private ports. So there's a need for us to do monitoring for the data from the private ports. I understand that this is already been these are being covered by the different port management offices, but definitely this is already just voluntary effort. So we just hope that there's a chance, or there are opportunities for us to reach these private ports and make them report or provide data in terms of like solid waste management. So we included in the recommendations, we understand that the manpower is a factor in terms of facilitating data collection from private ports. We also recommend that maybe there's an opportunity for interagency policy to have the solid waste management monitoring data of private ports. And then other other observations, there's a need for uniformity in data recording. So we understand that there's already a data collection template that is being updated by PPA. So, and also we hope that there's also from PPA that waste is recorded per waste fraction. So these are very important because definitely data data is important in terms of guiding the policies and like policies that will improve the operations. In terms of our recommendations, we do hope that we have this increased commitment from port managers. We can readily see it from the 3 ports, and very thankful for the 3 port managers that we are currently working with. Hopefully it gets to be casted to the other port managers. Other recommendations would include centralized monitoring template, which is already being included in the Philippine Ports Environmental Code, the per port recording of waste fractions, the participation of private ports, and also easy visualization of data. So data is very important to be uniform in terms of its reporting so that we can really visualize what is like earlier in the map that we presented. It would be great to have that visualization so it's easier to like monitor the performance or monitor the volume and also the system that is currently in place. From this national baseline study, we recommend the following. So one is, of course, we have been mentioning the stricter implementation and review of plans, programs, and policies and law. We also recommend better coordination and teamwork among stakeholders, better data management framework, and also have that fully functioning materials recovery facility. And there are times wherein there are nearby water bodies or important water bodies near the port. So it would be great to possibly implement solutions like installation of trash traps at drainage outfalls when necessary. It's also important to monitor and utilize plastic waste, and also IEC campaigns and standardization of waste bin color coding scheme. So with these results, we want to be able to work with the different local stakeholders so that we can identify what are the priorities in terms of addressing potential plastic waste leakages in the three ports, and testing out solutions so that we can document it and share it with the other ports. And this is part of WWF-Philippines vision of No Plastics in Nature initiative. So this is a WWF network initiative wherein we work towards stopping plastic waste leakage by 2030. And we work with the businesses, with the cities, and with the policymakers and all the other stakeholders for us to close the tap, close the loop, and to stop plastic waste leakage. And with that, thank you. And we are open to any question later. And hope if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to the project team. And have a great day. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. I hope you all learned a little bit. I know I learned a lot. Well, I guess some of the highlights, of course, is the implementation of existing laws and regulations, and of course, more material recovery facilities all over the country. Sadly, we are an archipelago of over 7,000 islands, and each little place needs to have its own MRF and make sure that it is a sanitary one and regulated correctly. Now, of course, this all really emphasizes why it's urgent that we take action to help reduce plastic waste in our port areas. So just want to say thank you once again, and let's all give a virtual round of applause to Ms. Pinocchio for her very informative presentation. Thank you very much. And we will now move on to our discussion. So in light with this, may I please call on our panel members. First off, we have Ms. Juvie Serafin, the Senior Environmental Management Specialist from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources in the Environmental Management Bureau. We also have with us Engineer Leslie Bangayan, the Shipping Operations Specialist from Maritime Industry Authority, otherwise known as a Marina. And from the Coast Guard, we have Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander Grace Campos, Commander of the Marine Science Investigation Force, Marine Environmental Protection Command, Philippine Coast Guard. And we also have Ms. Annie Lee Manesse, Port Manager of NCR North, joining us. This, of course, is for our short panel discussion on the project and the related issues on waste management in ports. Thank you very, very much for joining us all here today. And I want to start our discussion off today with our first question, which is, why do you think that plastic pollution is a very alarming problem for our environment? This goes out to any one of you.
Maybe, can I go first?
Of course.
Yes, okay. So I am, again, Juvie Serafin. I am just designated as the OIC of the Solid Waste Management Division of the Environmental Management Bureau. So why is plastic pollution, why is it important to address plastic pollution? So I just would like to provide you with the overview on how to appreciate the marine species that we have in the country. So for information of everyone, the Philippines is very rich in marine biodiversity. We have 2.7 hectares of seagrass beds. We have 2.5 million of hectares of coral reefs. We have a very diverse marine species. And the land-based as well as the sea-based plastic pollution directly impacts on the marine environment. And if we will not do anything to stop or to address this plastic pollution that we are facing right now, in the near future, our children and our grandchildren will never enjoy this richness of our marine biodiversity. So That is my response to this first question.
Yes. Yes, by all means. Lieutenant Commander?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Coast Guard Lieutenant Commander Grace Campos, the commander of Marine Science Investigation Force. It is very important to address plastic pollution because it's not only a Philippine concern, but a global concern. Once this plastic, when ingested by the marine species, it will also enter our food chain. Thus affects the health of the human beings. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I can attest to that. I believe there was a study done recently or a couple of years ago that said that the average person probably ingests the equivalent of 1 credit card's worth of plastic per week or 1 plastic coat hanger's worth per month. And that's because it's very much in our food chain, including our ocean life straight down to all the way down to the plankton level, sadly. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question now. And once again, this is for anyone. And the question is, what are your current initiatives to address plastic pollution? Yes, Lieutenant Commander.
One of our initiative, actually not our initiative, but an initiative from our academy. We are in continuous cooperation and collaboration with the Marine University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute and the Department of Science and Technology by providing our marine science technician in the conduct of a project study on microplastic.
Excellent. Yes, we do need to find out more about the effect that microplastics have in our waterways, in our oceans, and also how we can stop them. Yes, Juvie.
Okay, so for the side of the national government agencies, the DNR, and other concerned agencies, we have already drafted, or we have already approved or published this National Plan of Action on Marine Litter. This was already mentioned by our previous presenter. And the goal of this plan is zero waste to Philippines waters by 2040. So that will be 10 years delayed or after the goal of the WWF. But we really need the support and the cooperation of all sectors, not only from the government side, but also from the private sectors, the academe, to support us in order to achieve this plan of action to address the marine litter. So these are several strategies. They have the programmatic cluster strategies, and they have the cross-cutting cluster of strategies. So can I still add? So for the programmatic cluster, we have the National Marine Litter Baselining. So for the strategy 1. So it is very important that's why we also commend your report that you have presented earlier, because the National Marine Litter Baselining is very important so that we can develop a very effective plan. So if we do not know our baseline, we cannot identify strategies to address these concerns. And then we have the strategy number 2, the circular economy. And then strategy number 3 would be recovery and recycling. Strategy number 4 would be collection and disposal. And then strategy 5 would be shipping and fisheries waste control. And then we have the strategy 6 for the programmatic cluster, the cleanup of riverine and marine environments. So for the cross-cutting strategies, we have the policy and enforcement. Strategy 8 is social marketing and communication. And then for strategy 9 would be sustainable financing and resource allocation. And then for strategy 10 is strengthening local action. So based on this plan of action, it really needs a lot of efforts from all the sectors, cooperation and collaboration from all sectors, so that we will achieve the goal of the National Plan of Action on Marine Litter. So for the other efforts of the Department of Environmental Management Bureau, Department of Environment and Natural Resources through the EMB, Environmental Management Bureau, we would like to inform you that we have been providing financial assistance po to the local government units since 2012 in the operationalization of their materials recovery facilities. So we also provided support to the local government units in the proper closure and rehabilitation of their existing dam sites. And for this year, we will be providing support in the installation of trash taps in the most polluted, or the 4 of the most polluted rivers in the regions. And then we have been providing equipment to the local government units in managing this plastic waste. So that's some of the efforts of the EMB under the DENR.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the implementation of or the results of a lot of those efforts, and hopefully the partnership with the LGUs is very successful. Moving on to our next question. What are some of the challenges in implementing these types of initiatives? Yes. Lieutenant Commander?
Of course, one of the challenges that we encountered during our activities is the recent concern, which is the pandemic. We hardly mobilize our personnel, and most of our partner academy are also at risk, health risk, because of the pandemic. So we cannot do the project within the timeline. That's
yes, that is an issue across I guess across all businesses and initiatives. Sadly, the health risk posed for people on the ground. Any other issues with implementing initiatives from our other panel? No? All right, let me move on to the next question, which is, what can stakeholders do to help in addressing plastic pollution in our ports? I know a lot of this has been touched on already, but if there's anything else that someone would like to add. Yes.
They play an important role, especially in our data gathering side, because they are the one. Our stakeholders are the one recording the waste generation from ships.
Yes, that is very, very important to know just how much of the waste is being generated by the ships. As was mentioned during the presentation, I believe having, and also by Ms. Juvie, it is very important to have this baseline so we can see whether we're improving or we're getting worse, and also just having a very accurate record of the types of plastics there are, so we can see what there is that we can do with it. There seems to be a very wonderful opportunity for recycling, because so much of it is recyclable waste. But of course, that requires us to separate it, segregate it correctly. Well, that will bring us to the end of this particular panel discussion, but we will have time for more questions a little bit later on. In the meantime, I just want to say a big thank you to all of our guests and panelists today for inspiring and opening our eyes on the issue of addressing plastic waste in the country. Now, I'm sure that both you and I would want to commemorate this event today, so may I please ask everyone to open your cameras and join us for a quick Zoom feed, which will be facilitated by our friends from Comco Southeast Asia. Over to you guys.
Okay, let's wait for everyone to turn on their cameras. Okay. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, just keep on smiling as there are 4 pages. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right, wonderful. Thanks again, everyone. And before we proceed to our media Q&A, WWF has an exciting video for us on our next steps for this particular project. So let's all watch this.
From the baseline study results, stakeholder consultations, and planned project interventions, the Clean Ports, Clean Oceans project team came up with the following interventions and targets. At the local level, the project team is working with the Manila North Port, Port of Batangas, and Port of Cagayan de Oro. Plastics are the most abundant and most harmful type of marine debris. By working with the port and marine sector, the government agencies, communities, and organizations, we can eliminate plastic waste leakage in ports and contribute in achieving WWF's vision of no plastics in nature.
Together,
For no plastics in nature.
All right. Thank you very much for that presentation. And now to our friends from the media, it is finally time for you to further be part of today's discussion. We're now going to open the floor for the media Q&A portion so that you have a better understanding of WWF's solid waste management baseline study in Philippine ports. And so without much further ado, I would like to now welcome back our speakers, Ms. Pinopio, Ms. Larson, Ms. Serafin, Engineer Bangayan, Commander Campos, and Ms. Manese. Now, if anyone has any questions, kindly click the raise hands button below so that we can unmute you. Alternatively, anyone with a question can also type in their name, publication, and question in the Zoom chat box found on the side. All right, and now I'm going to turn you over to our communications partner, Comco Southeast Asia, to facilitate the media Q&A. Good luck, guys.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ferds Bonday from Comco. Okay, so we have our first question already. This is from Aika Cheng. The question is, what is the help needed to fully realize the implementation of clean ports, clean oceans in the country from the government and from the private citizens? So I guess this can be answered by Ms. Larson of Grieg and Zarina.
I can start and Grieg can add on to that. So definitely in terms of implementing the Clean Ports, Clean Oceans project, we need the help of the different port stakeholders. And we are actually fortunate and that we have here DNR. We have been working with the regional offices in that covers the three project ports. And then also we've been working, of course, with the PPA and of course, specifically with the port management officer. So thank you, PM Annie, for joining us here. And we also have the very active other port managers that we're covering for this project, including and also we're thankful for working with the PCG or Philippine Coast Guard. We've been also coordinating with them and also with the Marina. What we need to really fully realize the implementation of the Clean Ports, Clean Oceans project is that we need the help, or we need the contribution and the support of all the stakeholders, so that we get to really implement and fully realize that goal of stopping or reducing at least 50% of plastic waste leakage in these 3 ports. So yeah. And of course, I would also like to add the need, as I mentioned in the diagram, the need to like work with the communities and also the local government units from which these ports are located in.
Thanks, Zarina. Can we hear from Ms. Larson?
There aren't there aren't much to add to that, because the issue of plastic pollution is so big, and all of us need to contribute. And there are, many stakeholders, both civil society, local governments, national governments, and I think that this, the whole launch has actually shown how many that needs to be part if we are going to be able to do something about the project. And from the Grieg Group's side, when we work on plastic pollution, this program and this project is so important and crucial for us, because our ambition is on the basis of the 3 ports we're now working on in the Philippines, that we can scale up, and look at other ports in the field in the Philippines, but hopefully also internationally. I'm sure that there will be so many lessons learned from our project that it would be interesting to see if also we could implement in other ports in the world.
All right. Thank you for that, Zarina and Ms. Larson. For our second question, we have it from Nas Tabares. I guess this for all our partner organizations. What will be the roles of each organization in the implementation of this project? Zarina and probably the rest of the partners. But I guess, Zarina, you could start on it.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, so in terms of the roles of each organization, definitely we're coordinating with them based on their mandate. So we are coordinating with DNR because we are also trying to provide inputs to the National Plan of Action, which they are already heading or leading. We are coordinating with the PCG, with the Marina, in terms of like coordinating with the ships. I mentioned earlier in the report that there's like a need to encourage the compliance of more domestic vessels, and I think it's readily in coordination with PCG and Marina. Of course, with PPA, with the different PMOs, we have PM Ani, PM Sinocruz, and also PM Bong. So we are closely coordinating with them in terms of the local implementation, since for us to really help or work together in terms of what are the solutions that are needed and should be prioritized and implemented in this project. And of course, we are working with the local government units, so that we get to address that, because we see that this project is also integrated or connected to improving the city waste management system. And so it's very important to work with them and also with the communities in terms of identifying solutions that can really provide that livelihood and work together with all the other concerned stakeholders.
Thank you for that, Zarina. Anything to be added by our partners?
Very active champion namin yan si PM Ani. So we're very
Anything to add,
thankful
ma'am?
that she's here.
I would just like to share. We are really grateful that the Manila North Harbor was included in this project. And as mentioned already in the report, that PPA has in place nationwide on solid waste management. And it is an international commitment agreement through the IMO that we should really set up the shore reception facilities. And following the strategies of the DNR, we are really required to set up this materials recovery facility. But then we are in the process, as mentioned in the report, that we are strengthening our strategies by this port environment code, which is due to be issued. And in addition, because I noticed in the recommendations of MISCHA, the initiatives, there's a recommendation about the installation of truss traps at drainage outfall. So I would just like to inform the body that there's an existing, if you are aware of the Manila Bay Task Force. So these projects are already included. Actually, one of the projects that's included is, if you know, the Boracay thing in Ross Boulevard. So they have already set up the waste treatment facility. So this is included. So the role of PPA here is to ensure that there is no waste that is being thrown at Manila Bay. So there is already included in the projects, and these have fundings for the Manila North Harbor.
Thank you for that, Ms. Annie. Baka we could hear from our partner from the Philippine Coast Guard.
Yes, thank you. I believe we have a shared responsibility here. And of course, the government cannot do it alone. We need the cooperation of our stakeholders, like the shipping industry. They have to have their own waste management plan in their respective vessels. And through it must also be in line with the plan, waste management plan of the ports, Philippine ports.
All right, thank you for that. Anything to add, Ms. Leslie? Okay, I guess we're good. About Miss Juvie. All right, I guess we could proceed to our
Yes.
third. Hello, yes, please.
Yes po. Okay, I transferred to my cellular phone. Can
No
you
worries.
see me? Can you see me and can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, in relation to what Ma'am earlier has mentioned, we would like to inform you that we have this KRA2, solid waste management, KRA2 in support of the Manila Bay rehabilitation. So, PPA and the Coast Guards are members of the cluster. So we meet regularly, and they report to us on the status of the management of solid waste in their areas of jurisdiction. So that's one initiative of the national government agencies.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay, so we can proceed to our third question. From Ed Uy, it was mentioned that there would be a possible increase in waste in 3 ports. What do you think are the main factors that would contribute to these? Probably Serena?
Well, for the baseline study, and also it applies to the baseline studies that we have conducted in the 3 ports, you'll see that the data, we actually conducted a waste analysis and characterization study of the ports during pandemic. So definitely that's a big factor in terms of like a potential increase in the volume of the waste that will be generated or coming in from these ports. But we have taken this into account in terms of the targeting and in terms of the interventions that we have set for the project. So definitely that's the main factor, would be the COVID element. And actually it's also showing some signs in terms of the composition of the different waste that are being generated, or the composition of the waste that are being generated from the vessels and the ports.
Thank you for that, Serena. Our next question is from Maya Poblete. Are there also projects or programs focused on helping the general public become more aware of the dangers of plastic waste? Anyone can answer this?
In the part of the Philippine Coast Guard, we have this stakeholders information education campaign. We train and we provide education or awareness to our not only our stakeholders, but in the community. We have this project. We also involve our community in the coastal cleanup. We collect waste or garbage, solid waste in the coastal area.
All right. Anything to add from other panelists?
Yes, from the Environmental Management Bureau.
Yes, please, ma'am.
Yes po. We have just launched the NPOA last November 26 na po. But prior to that, we have already conducted this marine litter webinar for our stakeholders in Luzon on November 15, and then for the Visayas in November 17, and then in Mindanao on November 22. So that's our initial IEC or initial effort to enhance the awareness of our people on the management of our waste and the impacts of the improper management of waste in the marine environment. So we have started that in 2021, and we have also targeted activities in support to this and BOA ML for this years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So we're down to our second to the last question. This one is from Florencio Husay Jr. Would it be an interesting question? Would it also be practical to set up recycling centers near ports? Probably can answer by your friends from DNR and PPA. Or anyone who could respond to Florencio Husay Jr.'s question. Why is it is it practical to set up the recycling centers near the ports?
Maybe DNR can
Yes, please.
Can reply to this because it's the core function. But then in ports, the areas inside the port is it's for the purpose of operations. So, but the ports are already required to set up a shore reception facility and a materials recovery facility. All the port waste are still collected by the LGU. So, I think it's all of this, all the port generated waste are still collected by the LGU. So, I guess they're the one, kumbaga, doon sa kanila. I'm not so sure, but then siguro it's the function to set up the recycling. But then we have ports that we call it the materials recovery facility, but then there are ports that have they recycle. There's a facility. Like I would like to give for one example, way back, our port of Puerto Princesa, they have a materials recovery facility which has a recycling area, and that's why they were awarded a citation. We have a program before that, a green port, something like that, and they had an award. They were issued an award.
Right.
And
thank you.
yes, first, maybe I'll just
Yes,
add
Serena,
on to
I was
that.
about to call you. Okay,
Just assessing if it will be ideal to have a recycling center near ports. As I mentioned, this project is an opportunity actually for us to test out solutions. If we see that it would be great to test out if having a recycling center near the ports would be helpful in terms of bettering the current waste collection
information and management system, then this is something that we can pilot with the project. Definitely, the reason why it's very, I think it's great that the project started with a baseline study. And actually, that's the reason why we started with a baseline study, because we first want to assess what is already out there, because we don't want to duplicate what the DNR, the PCG, the Marina, and the PPA, and the LGUs are, and the communities are already doing in these different sites. And what we want to do is identify what are the solutions needed and what are the possible things that we can test out for us to address plastic pollution. So yeah.
Thank you
May
for
I
that.
share? May I
Yes,
share
please.
additional?
Go ahead po.
I would like to suggest, Ms. Cha, have you seen the Smoky development, the Smoky Mountain? And there in the port, near the port, there at farther to North Harbor, going to the Manila Harbor Center, you can see the lineup. It's a recycling something. They gather the garbage, they sort it out there. So it's an informal recycling. So maybe this is a challenge, and you may include this in your study. Have you seen it?
Yes, and something we can explore. Actually, our project, it also includes like an assessment. We have another project, an assessment of the Manila City Solid Waste Management System. And our partner AMH team was also in this launch. They identified this area where there are a long line of junk shops. And this is something that we can actually explore together po, PM Ann. Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful. So that's right. So anything that could, of course, help address the problem, we'll explore possibilities and solutions. That's right. Okay, we're down to our last question, and it's great that it's coming from someone from Cagayan de Oro, Ruby Caberte. The question is, how can the public express their support to address the plastic pollution problems in these three ports? Probably from WWF. Okay,
Okay,
Sarina?
so I'll start. So right now we have this call for entrepreneurial solutions. It's the deadline is actually on Monday. So the goal is that from the results of preliminary findings of this baseline study, we identified what would be the focus or what are the opportunities for us to implement the solution. And in these areas of or potential areas for solutions, we used it to really call for solutions that would address it or will improve the system in that particular portion or in that particular area in the entire solid waste management system. And I think the public definitely can, if you already have a solution that has been piloted and tested, definitely join this call for solutions. The deadline is on Monday, and and let us pilot that solution in the different ports, whether in one port or in all of the ports that are covered in this project. And of course, spread the word. Definitely, it is always important to really share about the situation and what and the progress that we are already having in terms of addressing plastic pollution. And that's why the reason why we have this media launch. So thank you for the media practitioners who are always helping us educate or inform the public of the current situation in terms of plastic pollution and what are the projects that are being done, not just by WWF, but all of the agencies and concerned stakeholders in the Philippines. And not just in the Philippines, we also have our supporters all the way from Norway. So
yeah. Thanks for that, Sarina. And talking about Norway, anything to add from our friends or partners from Grieg Group?
Everything that was said now was just great. I think maybe the three things: join the call for solutions. There's still time, not a lot of time, but still time. So it is possible to join. I would say connect with WWF in the Philippines. They are an amazing group of people, hardworking, knowledgeable. It's a delight to work together with them. So do that, and then help us share the information about this project. through social media and in other ways, talking about the project. That would be very helpful.
Right. Thank you for that, Ms. Larson. Right, so we had many wonderful questions. I'm afraid we don't have much time anymore, but we'll be able to answer them via email. So thank you to our panelists and to our media and to our blogger friends who shared their questions. Back to you, Mark.
All right, thank you so much for that, folks. And thank you everyone out there for your questions. We do hope that you were able to get at least some of the answers that you needed. And now, as we sadly close this event for WWF Philippines media launch, we do have Ms. Emmeline Pluskun of WWF Norway to give us a short message.
Thanks, Mark. Good afternoon, everyone. And we have now reached the end of the event, and I will try to be brief because a lot of things have been said today. So as said earlier, like the project Clean Ports, Clean Ocean is very like a great example of collaboration between the public, private, and civil society entities. So we are really proud to be part of this, and we're really grateful for the Grieg Foundation, the Grieg Group, the Marina, the Philippine Coast Guard PPA, and the Department of Natural Resources and Transports for their support for this project. So as my colleague Zahina said, the next step now is to select solutions and pilot them in the 3 ports. So I encourage you to apply by Monday if you have any great solution for the 3 ports. And I would like to thank all the speakers today and also our moderator, Mark Nelson, and all the participants for attending this event. And I wish you all a good evening or a good day for those who are in Norway. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Pluskun. I hope you're having a wonderful day over there. And thank you again for closing today's event. And of course, to everyone out there, thank you also most especially to our partners and friends from the media for supporting us at this very crucial moment for societal change. That is learning more about WWF Philippines solid waste management baseline study in Philippine ports. We do thank you once again very much for your time and your participation. We are, of course, very grateful as well for all of the support from our stakeholders and partners from the port and marine sector, namely the Philippine Ports Authority, the Philippine Coast Guard, the Maritime Industry Authority, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Environmental Management Bureau, the Norwegian Embassy in the Philippines, and of course, the Grieg Foundation and Grieg Group. A big, big thank you to all of you. Of course, our communications partner, Comco Southeast Asia, will be emailing you all a copy of the study and the press release so that you can peruse that in your free time. Please also make sure that you spread the word on social media by using the hashtags #ChangeTheEnding and #NoPlasticsInNature. And now, just before we say our goodbyes, we would like to announce that the WWF Philippines project landing page for Clean Ports, Clean Oceans is now up. So please check it out for any more information and updates on this particular project. All you have to do is go to wwf.org.ph or copy the link pasted in the chat box right there. Once again, this has been Mark Nelson, and we hope you had a great time and learned something of value. I know I certainly did. Together, we can #ChangeTheEnding for the planet. Have a safe and blessed rest of the week. Thanks again, guys.
Yay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Happy
Thank you
weekend.
very much.
Happy
Thank you po.
weekend. Happy Friday. Thank you, PM Annie.
It was really like riveting.
Thank you po, Ma'am Campos, Ma'am Bangayan, si
Thank you po,
Ambassador,
ma'am.
thank you very much for joining us.
Afternoon po.
Afternoon. Thank you. Have a great weekend ahead. And thank you, Comco. AMH, thank you. Before you go, thank you.
Congratulations,
Congratulations to us.
Yes, great presentation.
Thank you, Mark.
That was
And
just
that's all.
fantastic, the presentation. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you also, agree with your passionate statements. Those were great. Or those were the great way to end the
Yes.
Q&A earlier.
Yeah, and my son coming there in the end. I mean, that's life, you know, that's life these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but hey, you know what?
No.
He's the future, so he should very much be incorporated
true.
into all of this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he can learn by watching your screen and listening in.
Yeah.
True.
His English isn't that good, but
It's okay. It's much better than our Norwegian. Trust us.
True, I would agree with you, Mark, on that.
Björn, are you still on the call? We can see maybe see that you're there, but
Are you? He might
I might not be there. I know.
be there. Yeah.
Me and Björn, we worked together before in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Oh, wow.
So
Nice.
it was, you know, it's so nice to see each other now in different roles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is he based in the Philippines at the moment, or is he back in Norway and doing everything remotely?
No, he's in the Philippines.
Okay. Oh, good.
Well, at least that's what I think. No, that he's
Possibly.
he's in the Philippines. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so much again for all of the support. I mean, this is such an important initiative that the Philippines really needs. It's long overdue, and so we couldn't do this without your support, Grieg Foundation, Grieg Group, and I guess also partnership with WWF Norway for doing this. I told Zarina this recently. I had a scuba diving trip on one of the islands about a month and a half ago, and in all of my years of diving in the Philippines since the 80s, I have never come across so much plastic in the water before in my life. Yeah, sadly. I do believe that in that particular dive location, it was probably brought in partly by the tides, but it was like swimming through a trash heap. When you go to so many places, you see, because I've been underwater in the Philippines for so long, I've really seen the difference that has happened in the last 30, 40 years. And it's quite sad.
It's very sad.
Yeah, there are, of course, lots of places that, are still